Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
We are now live. Is it Felicia or Felicia?
It's Felicia.
Felicia.
Yeah.
It's easier to remember.
Is it?
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people call me Felicia. I let them call me Felicia for...
Felicia.
Yes. Bye, Felicia. I get that a lot.
Of course.
But I'm like, that's not my name. They don't care. People call me Felicia all the time, and I let them call me Felicia. I never correct people unless I know that I'm going to see that person a lot, and then I'll correct
right on.
it.
All right.
And then they still call me Felicia. But...
People.
I don't think it's that hard, but it's my name, so that's
Felicia.
why. Felicia. And you know what? Felicia isn't really a name anyway, I don't think.
It's not a name. What do you mean?
It's not. Like, the correct name is Felicia, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's Felicia Rashad. That's the only
I
Felicia.
remember her, yeah. She married a famous ex-football player.
Did she?
Ahmad Rashad. Yeah, Ahmad Rashad.
Okay.
You wouldn't know. It's way back.
It's PHY. There's a PHY in there, I think. Felicia Rashad.
Okay.
But mine is Felicia. And a friend of mine said, this is a good joke, actually, so my name is Felicia Gillespie.
Right.
So it sounds like I'm a black chick who came from a good home. That's what my name sounds like. Felicia Gillespie.
Oh, my God.
Makes sense, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And we're off.
And we're here. We're in a coma.
We're in a coma. Yeah. So, how are you managing through the pandemic here?
Horrible.
What do you mean?
I can't even deal with it, Eric. It's just, I'm having a breakdown every day on Facebook and Instagram, and no, it's been really rough. Being someone who's used to being
You're
on
not
the road.
alone.
I know I'm not alone, but it feels like I am because people then comment. They're like, you doing okay? Like, sarcastically, and I'm like, how are you okay? How are you okay with everything that's happening right now? Really?
Yeah, it's pretty caustic out there right now.
Yeah.
You know, and we do one thing about this show, and I should have mentioned this to you prior, in case you came in with an agenda, which I know you haven't. We don't do politics on here.
Okay.
Now,
yeah,
we don't start out doing politics. Let me just rephrase that. I don't invite people on this little shindig here that has a bent that may be tied to a political party or something. Now, if someone just rah go team,
right?
Why, I have no idea. But if they are, they can do what they want. We try to avoid the whole thing. But I have to say, right off the bat, am I right or wrong? Is it fucking nuts out there right now?
It's nuts.
I mean, people are losing their shit. Bad.
Yeah. Drug use is up, right? Alcoholism is up. People are relapsing. I think the suicides are up. I don't want to be a buzzkill right off the bat, but I looked it up and I was like, yeah, I think I couldn't find the exact percentage that it's gone up. I can't find the numbers, but I did see that the number of calls into the crisis hotline is up 65%. That's not actual suicides, but more people are calling. Yeah, and my friends are like, I talk to my friends about it, and they're like, "What? Well, just shut up, Felicia. Just, you hunker down and you barrel through." And I'm like, really? That's your advice? I've been doing that. Since March 14th. So it is nuts. You're right.
Yeah, we weren't meant to live this way. I don't think humans are, some people are trying to justify that. Like, oh, yes, we are. We're fine. We're fine. We're going to be okay. But this is not normal.
No.
There's no new normal. I want to go outside. I want to go do stuff, right?
Yes, I agree with you. It is the new normal, though. I don't know if it's coming back. I have a lot of people a lot of friends who don't think things will ever return.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
You think it'll go back?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, what is your time frame for that, do you think?
I would say, okay. I think by this summer, this coming summer, I think we'll go past the 1 year anniversary, and it's going to look pretty darn good. But I think by the summertime, I think it's going to be, and then I don't think we'll have the relapses next fall, because if you go back in history, supposedly, and I'm not the biggest history buff, but supposedly, looking at the prior pandemic, which is almost 100 years ago, the way it works is kind of what's happening. It's the summertime months, the warm months, it kind of dissipates. and then the first cold season or colder season comes back, and we're in that now. And then right around the 1.5 point or 4 month point, it was gone. And I think that's going to happen here too. I just do. I think by next summer it's rock and roll 24/7, and we're going to go.
Because a vaccine will come out?
I think it has nothing to do with the vaccine. The vaccine may even make it quicker, maybe. I don't know about that. I just think it's just going to work its way. I don't think it's the death plague. I mean, there's a horrible amount of people that have passed, and I'm not going to make light of that at all.
Right.
But I don't have all the numbers. I don't know what the other kinds of flus, or the bird flu, or the dinosaur flu, whatever the flip we had. I don't know those numbers, so I'm not going to talk about that.
Right.
I just think we're going to be okay.
That's good. That's positive.
I honestly believe that.
I hope you're right. I hope that comedy clubs come back at full capacity, and that people can go out and enjoy that without having to watch it at a drive-in, which is not bad. I did
How's that work?
A couple of drive-in shows. They were good.
Now, were they good, or they're just good under the circumstances?
They were good under the circumstances. I did feel like when I was doing the show, I was like, why haven't we been doing this? This is pretty fun. But I was like, well, why would we? If we have indoor theaters and clubs, of course, why would we? But they tell the people to honk as laughter. They're like, if you think a joke is funny, honk, which is a good idea and a bad idea. It depends on who is hosting the show and how they present this idea to the audience. If you have a host who's like, look, if you think something's funny, honk and keep it at that. It's great. The honks work, because if the honk comes in at the right time after a joke, it's like a rim shot. It enhances the show. So sometimes you have a host who's just like, honk for this, how many people this, how many, and then there's way too many honks. It opens it up. It's distracting. Takes away from the show. I've experienced both. So it can be really great and it can be shitty. But it's good.
I've got some friends. My cohort Fred Coelho has been to a couple of these rock shows, and that are drive-in in nature, and I just don't get it. I can't. As a consumer of media, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's technology. You go to a rock show. Like, I was asking him, do you still put you hang the little speaker off the side of the door?
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's like listening to an AM radio. All this money you pay, and you listen to an AM radio. I don't get it.
Yeah, you're listening to it through your radio.
I don't understand. Help me out. I mean, comedy, so you go up there, you do your thing. Isn't that weird to look out over a sea of automobiles? Is that weird?
It was weird. Now, the people up front brought lawn chairs, and they sat outside, and I could hear them laughing. So there was a couple of rows of people in the very front. They project your image up onto the screen, which is great, so people in the back can see. And yeah, you can't really see the people in their cars, but you hear the laughter from these people right here. You hear a honk. You're like, all right, got it. You like that joke, whatever. But I think a rock show, you're right. That is weirder than comedy, because at first I was like, how is this going to work with comedy? I don't understand. But then, seeing it, I'm like, okay, it kind of enhances some things. Like, you can bring 4 or 5 people, sit in a car, watch a show. You don't have to deal with people who are drunk, You don't have to deal with hecklers, right?
Do you miss that?
Dealing with hecklers?
Yeah.
No, nobody misses that. I mean, well, some people, I guess, who love that and invite it, and that's kind of their thing.
Okay.
But no, nobody. No, hecklers are not welcome.
Okay.
In comedy. But
that's a misconception, because a lot of people think that comedians enjoy that, or they yearn for that.
Yeah, hecklers think that. The people who are heckling.
Good
they're
point.
They're like, I am improving the show right now. That's what they always say. They go,
show improvement.
I was trying to help you out. And you're like, please don't help. But people can sit in their cars and like eat snacks and not have to. You don't have to worry about servers coming and taking orders. So it is quieter, and people can break out into little conversations within their car if they maybe want to have a side comment or something. And it
Okay.
doesn't disrupt the rest of the audience like it would in a comedy club or a theater. So there's that part of it where,
Okay.
you know what I mean? People can come with their friends, have a good time, not have to worry about disrupting the rest of the crowd. As comedians, we don't have to worry about them disrupting the rest of the crowd. So that's something that, it's not a great selling point, but it is kind of cool.
It's something. So what's so fascinating to me about this, and even like I watched a little bit of the NFL games yesterday, go Steelers, right? It still cracks me up because we're so like into this social distancing thing.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But if you're with people you know, we assume we all know each other so well that we know that each other, our friends and family, are safe, of course.
Yeah.
So we can cluster in little groups and then social distance by cluster. But we don't know our groups. We don't know if the 5 people we're with are actually okay or not. We don't know. But that's okay.
Right.
It's okay to cluster, but just in small groups. Instead of 80,000, you can cluster with 5.
Right.
But we still don't know. That's not pure social distancing. Social distancing is as 6, 4, 7 feet away from each individual human.
Right.
It's almost it's a comedy. It's a shit show. It's a comedy show to me as a consumer of media looking at it because the rules don't make any sense.
They don't. You're absolutely right about that. And when you say like we don't, and I'm not a political person at all, but it is when you talk about this, people take it as a political issue almost. But I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. Like the plexiglass barriers. Okay, all the dressing rooms are closed in the malls, in Target, whatever. You can't go in the dressing rooms.
Right.
And they're like, but you can take it home and try it on. And if it doesn't fit, you can return it. It's like, are you kidding me right now? That's worse than me going into the dressing room. I'm bringing it into my house with all of my germs.
I know.
And bringing it back. That makes no sense. Just let me in the dressing room. I'll have it on for 5 seconds.
Oh, there's got to be so much material for you folks, though. I mean, like, just the insanity of just eating out and observing people now to these new rules. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And I don't think anyone's purposely trying to hurt anyone else. I don't think we know what the hell we're doing. There's no. It's uncharted territory.
Yeah, those little signs on the floor in the supermarket that say one way. Do you follow those?
I don't think I've ever noticed them. I don't pay attention to the floor anywhere I go.
Yeah. I intentionally don't follow them. I'm like, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I'm just that kind of a person.
Yeah, I'll wear the mask, but I'm not going right or left.
You think I'm going to go, if I need something down this aisle and you're down this aisle and it's a one way, you think I'm going to go all the way around like I'm in a car?
Well, what's the purpose of that? I mean, no. I mean, like, I don't know how that helps the problem.
I guess I don't know. You're right. And I don't want to say, because it's like, it is, like I said, it's offensive to people to say this, but I really think it's just about control. And I hate control. A lot of people don't like control. Americans don't like control. But, the people who are okay with these rules, they're like, well, that it does help. But I don't see how it does. I really don't. Going down an aisle the wrong way. It's like I might be farther away from you. If I'm up here and I come down, I might be farther away from you than I would be coming all the way around. And then I can't pass you. Like if I pass you, I'm closer to you than I am. It doesn't make any sense. You're right. None of the rules.
Are they trying to avoid like head-on collisions with buggies? What is the purpose of that? Like, because there's always those awkward moments in like Walmart, like you're in a hurry and you go around a corner and boom, you slam into someone. That are they trying to avoid that?
I think they're trying to make it. Yeah, I think they're just trying to keep distance between people, keep that 6 feet between people, and also maybe make it a little confusing and tougher to get around the store, so you have to walk around and around people.
Well, here's an idea: make the owls bigger, for God's sake, Almighty. We're not in control of that. You cram us in there like sardines. I mean, how do you grocery shop? I found this out at Target last week. How do you grocery shop in the grocery section of Target? Because most people grocery shop, they see a wall of cereal.
Yeah.
And you gotta you got to take a couple. You got to take a couple steps back to get it all in, right? But as soon as you take a couple steps back, you're now in the oncoming lane. I mean, you can't. It just it's like come on. What the piss, right?
I love that you want to take a step back and just have this grand view of all of the cereal.
Well, yeah, your decision-making process, right? What brand of sugar is going to kill me this week, right?
You are open to the entire aisle. You don't go in there thinking, I feel like something chocolatey. Let me go to the chocolatey section. You're like, no, anything goes today. I want to see the whole spectrum.
Yeah, and you can't do that right up on. And people are like, and it's like, excuse me. And now, it was always bad before there were masks and all this nonsense. But, it was bad then. You don't want to run into people when you're trying not to make eye contact because you're trying to act like you know what you want to buy when you don't.
Yeah.
But now it's even worse. Like, all you can see is eyes. Now, like, how do you deal with that, right? I'm amazed at how much of our social communication is really like deficient now when you can't see below the eyes. Mm-hmm. You take the mouth region and the lower region of the face for granted, for God's sake.
Oh, absolutely. If you're at a bar that happens to be open.
Oh, where are those?
You're trying to date somebody and you can't see the bottom half of their face. How, what? You get them home, they take their mask, and they're like, oh man, you got the snaggle tooth. What? It's terrible.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being out there now. I mean, it's nuts.
It is nuts.
How do you do that? Like, how? So, dating in the year 2020, we will look back at this at like.
I just don't think people are doing it. They're doing it, I've been on dating apps and things like that, and just like talking to people I know, and they don't want to go out. They're scared. It's not like, oh, let's go meet at this, whatever, a Starbucks. Starbucks are open. Let's meet up for coffee. They don't want to do it. They're like, no, I'm just gonna. They'll do it on Zoom, but that surprises me because I thought men would be really horny. I thought men would be like, fuck it, yes, I will meet you. But no, they're not. They're like, I'm just going to stay here.
That's fascinating to me. Yeah, I thought that certainly men would be more brazen.
I thought so too. They are not.
Really? What kind of men are we like cultivating in this country? Yeah. What have we done to masculinity in this country?
I agree. I agree.
Unbelievable. Yeah, the whole dating thing has to be unbelievable now because I said to myself the other day, I go, man, if this was like, even 10 years ago when I was out there, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, because I would be the kind to be like, okay, well, let's meet at Lowe's.
Right. Lowe's.
It's only thing open. Let's go to Home Depot. It's the only thing that's open.
That's a great idea.
Let's go look at power tools at Home Depot. I don't know.
Damn, I'm actually going to start suggesting Lowe's as a date anyway. Because I never even thought of that. Let's go to Lowe's. There's so much to look at and talk about. What kind of, that would be great.
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of entertainment, but, there's enough there if you just look at the people, right?
Yeah, or the ceiling fans, and just like, hey, are you into this one? What do you think of this one?
Yeah, but that's the only thing that's open. And for the first month and a half, it was safe to go to not Kmart. Oh my God, I'm dating myself. It's safe to go to Walmart.
It's never safe to go to Kmart.
No, it's never safe to go to Kmart. And I don't think it ever was safe to go to Kmart. My last recollections of Kmart, it definitely was not safe.
That's right.
Kmart. But the point was, these department stores were safe, but you couldn't go to the hardware store down the street. Couldn't go down and have coffee at the street with no one around.
Right.
We weren't allowed to do that.
Well, I think it's also people want to. They are legitimately concerned about the virus, which they should be. They are taking precautions. That's great. But they also don't want to be seen out, because if you're seen out or if you go out, it also appears as if you don't care. You don't have empathy.
Still?
Yeah.
Hopefully that's going away a little bit, right?
I don't think it is. I mean, no, I don't think people are going out. Maybe a little bit more, but they're still being very cautious. Somebody like me, I don't care, right? Of course I care about, I'll wear a mask and everything, but I I go out. I'm out all the time. I've been traveling. I've been
Right.
crossing. I'm going to get arrested and all these fines for saying this, but I've been traveling. I'm out there. I want to see what's going on. I don't understand that. I'm like, how can you, especially as a comedian, or if you consider yourself to be an artist of any kind
Right.
or a creative person,
Right.
I want to go out and see what's happening in different areas of the country. I want to see what's going on. So I'm out there. So I'll go, I'll go on a date. I don't care.
It's really interesting, the differences now. We're 8 months in. We don't like to date these shows usually because we want the content to be evergreen, but
Yeah.
we have to this year, for God's sake. What's going on? But we're 8 months in roughly, and some states are just rock and roll. Like,
Which states? Because I'm trying to move to those states. Do you know which ones are rock and roll?
I think Florida's that way.
I've heard that Florida is
North Dakota, South Dakota. I think of all. I don't think
Okay.
they've locked down at all.
never moving
Not
there.
a lot to do up there.
Yeah. I had a nervous breakdown in South Dakota. Have you
Wait,
ever-
what? No,
Yeah,
how'd
yeah,
that
yeah.
happen? What happened there?
Well, this is when I took my 3-year break from comedy. This
okay.
is what kicked it off. Pretty much, I had a lot going on in my life. I was under a lot of stress. A lot of things were going on. But I was on like a 3-week run, and I went to the first week was in South Dakota. I think it was Sioux Falls. And then I was on my way to the next gig. And I was like 2 weeks in maybe of this 3, but I had been on the road a lot.
Okay.
And
Sioux Falls. How'd you get up there?
Drove. It drove. And it's so barren. I don't know if you've ever been to South Dakota.
I have no, but uniquely been in North Dakota. Can't be any different.
It was uncomfortable for me.
Really?
Yes. And I like...
You mean like the landscape, or
Yes. It was so...
in the broad daylight, still uncomfortable?
Yes. I just felt like it's very flat. There's nothing to look at. It was brown. I think it was March, something like that.
Brown.
It was March, and brown, and just nothing.
You can get that in Ohio. You have to go all the way to Dakotas.
Ohio is like, there are trees, there are some hills. I know, even Indiana, you have cornfields.
Okay.
You've got something to look at. But
Okay.
something about it, just something about South Dakota really made me not want to be there
Okay.
in an urgent way. And so I just started feeling weird as I was driving. I was like, why do I feel so... I felt weird before I started the trip.
Right.
Didn't want to get back in the car is what it was. Just had too much stress. So it was anxiety that had built
Okay.
that I hadn't been conscious of or,
Okay.
really mindful of. So it built, and South Dakota brought it out of me where it was like, okay, you need to stop, take a break with whatever you're doing in your life. So I was driving in South Dakota, and I was like, I don't feel right. I called my boyfriend at the time. I'm like, I don't feel right. Something's weird. And it wasn't like a physical feeling. It was like a mental feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what it was. So that freaked me out, started to scare me. And then I was on the phone with him, and he's not, like, whatever he was trying to console me with, it wasn't helping. And I was just like, I'm just going to call an ambulance because I don't know what's going on with me. I need to pull over. I pulled over, got out of my car. I'm just, like, sitting on the bank outside of my car on the side of the highway calling an ambulance, and I'm telling them, and I'm like, I don't know. I just don't feel right. Maybe it's just that I'm in South Dakota, and the ambulance, a cop comes, and an ambulance, he's like, do you know what day it is? And I'm like, yes, I know it. I'm all here. I just don't feel right. And the ambulance comes, they check me out, and they're like, you're physically fine. All of your blood pressure's good. Everything. We don't know what's wrong with you. Do you want to hurt yourself? I'm like, no, please don't mention that. That makes me feel worse. But they took me to a hospital, and a doctor came, and she was like, you have anxiety. And I'm like, what? That can't be right. Like, this feels like something else. Are you?
Right.
I kept asking her, are you sure I'm not crazy? And she's like, yeah, I work with psychotic people all the time. Every day, I can tell immediately if someone's not all there. You're fine. You just have anxiety. I'm like, okay. And she's like, just take some of these. She gave me Klonopin.
Yeah.
She's like, take some of these, do whatever you got to do. If this feeling persists, go to a therapist. I'm like, okay. So I canceled the rest of my tour and got a hotel that night. And my boyfriend at the time drove all the way from Cincinnati to South Dakota to come get me and help me drive my car back home because I couldn't do it. And so the next day when we left, this story's kind of boring, but the next day when we left, we were still in South Dakota. So I was like, I started driving and I was like, I'm going to need to take one of these pills to get through this state, right? That's how bad South Dakota is.
Yeah, just so the landscape. I've never heard that the landscape freaked you out.
It hit me, yeah.
Okay.
Wrong.
I had a buddy of mine that drove through, I want to say, near Death Valley one time, and he gave me a similar story where it freaked him out. There was he goes, there was too much of the same all around me.
Yes.
In front of me, to the left, to the right,
Yeah.
behind me. No matter which way I turned, it was the same.
Yeah.
I thought I was on the moon.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
And Death Valley with the weather there, I could see. I've been told that Death Valley is like very freaky because you're like, man, if something happens to my car, I'm gonna die out here. South Dakota, you probably wouldn't die. You'd probably be okay. But Death Valley, the heat will kill you. But yeah, I'm not.
That's the name, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to South Dakota, even though they're rock and roll and open. But I would go to Florida. You know, I'd go to Florida.
Yeah, I think Florida. I think Texas is like the hot place since Rogan has moved to Texas now. It's like in the consciousness of America. Yeah. Right. A
lot of people are going to Austin right now.
Yeah, but Austin's now becoming a weird town, and in terms of the way the rest of the state is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Texas is kind of one way.
True.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's just one way.
Right.
And Austin's got more of a cosmopolitan thing with the rest of Texas is on the outside looking in going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. I've never been to Texas.
Yeah. You should go to Texas. You got to experience it at least once.
I do want to go. I don't think I would go now. I don't
go to a
live
7-Eleven on a hot sunny day in
Yeah.
Texas. They give you the whole Texas experience.
At a
You
7-Eleven?
can buy your liquor. You can get your gas pumped. There's your whole Texas experience.
Wear a
there.
cowboy
Go
hat.
Cowboys. You'll see cowboy pennants, guys in big hats, and guys will pull in with cowboy hats and boots, and you'll see enough fake accents. I mean, you'll see it all there.
I would love that. I actually have been. I was 3 days away from moving to New York
How'd that happen?
when the lockdown happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had finally made the decision to move to New
Okay.
York to further my career as a comedian.
Oh, you
You
would have seen
know.
a lot of people going their direction if you had gone.
Right. I didn't go because we weren't allowed. Everyone was like, don't go anywhere.
They would do a news special on you. Hey, there's someone coming here.
I have been there since. I have visited a couple times, and it is a ghost town. It's
Really?
absolutely, it's insane what's happening in New York. It's like tyranny up there.
Uh-huh.
It's like a dictatorship. It's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no point in being there right now, not for me anyway.
Yeah, well, there's no leadership up there at all. The state and especially the city, there's no leadership, and I'm sorry to go that direction, but that's just the reality of it. That man doesn't know what the hell's going on.
It's terrible. It's
Yeah.
really terrible. It's demoralizing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I found I was living here in Pittsburgh. I've moved all over, but at the time I was living here in Pittsburgh. Found somebody to take over my lease. Couldn't wait to get out.
Okay.
And moved my stuff into my parents' house.
Right.
And was like, I'll hang out with them for 3 days, and then I'll be in New York. I had an air mattress. Somebody offered me an abandoned apartment below their apartment. They're like, but it doesn't have gas. So I bought one of those electric burners so I could heat up water. And I was
Okay.
going to stay there for 10 days while looking for an apartment with my air mattress and like a couple of outfits.
In New York.
In New York City.
Okay.
And I was ready to go. And then they were like, don't go anywhere for 2 weeks. No travel for 2 weeks.
okay.
And I'm like, all right, I kick it here with my parents for 2 weeks. And then that never ended. It never ended.
You're still kicking.
I'm still kicking it. I've been to New York. I've been to Philly. I've been to Kentucky. And I've been like to hang out with friends.
Yeah.
Stay with
What's
friends.
Kentucky like during all this?
During all this, well, the part I was in is near the Cincinnati area, Newport, Kentucky, around there, and they were pretty locked down. I was there in May,
Okay.
so everywhere was locked down. I don't know what it's like now. It's slightly more open, just like everywhere else, where you can go. You can maybe eat inside of a restaurant, but everything's closing early. Like bars, everything's closes at 10, and they made their to-go liquor sales permanent. I have a server friend who lives out there,
Right.
and she said, that's just how you do it now. So it's pretty much the same as everywhere else.
Wow, I thought they might be a little more
It's a blue state,
opened up.
so
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Oh, I'm so tired of blue and red, and we got
Yeah.
2 more weeks of this nonsense, and it's done. Honest to God, we got 2 more weeks.
not gonna end in 2 weeks.
I know, but at least it might get worse right after the election day.
Yeah.
Usually, when I grew up, there was an election day, and then there was consequences, or you were either dealing with those consequences in the positive or the negative the next day.
Right.
And then 2001 happened, and coincidentally, my son was born that day, and then nothing was resolved, and that was weird. And I was like, wow, that's kind of different. We don't know what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a state of flux. But we didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
Now we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Now we know we're not going to know.
Right.
And what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great theater. It's going to be great theater.
Yeah. Do you have your apocalypse bunker ready?
No. See, I'm more optimistic. I don't think humans are going to I don't think generally we hate each other. I just think that I really believe that we have let society and elements in society co-opt our brains for a temporary period of time.
Yeah.
I really, and go team, right? It's the Yankees and the Red Sox, Democrat, Republican, and those of us and I mean us in the middle that either are indifferent, don't care, or care but can't buy into either team. We're kind of just sitting here really looking around going, you folks are effing crazy. That's my viewpoint.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, we're not going to get super into politics. I don't even know if this is it's not even a political issue, but the news does lie. It's inaccurate. Journalism is dead.
There's no journalism.
So,
there's
yeah.
no journalism. Yeah.
No.
And that's why comedy, I think, is great because you got so much material. There was always political material for comics, always, right?
Yeah.
But nothing like it is today.
No.
I mean, really. We have lunacy versus senility.
Right?
That's what's going to happen. We have a lunatic and a guy that's ready to go into the dementia ward.
Yeah. Yep.
One has no one giving him any advice. He won't take it. And the other one's probably being completely propped up by other humans.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. As a comic, do you find this funny? You grow up and you look to elders as people of influence in your life. You have respect for elders.
Okay.
And as I got a little older, in my 20s and in my 30s, these same elders that were a parental figure as I was growing up, now you see them almost as contemporaries. And you see the decisions they make, a lot of them with political decisions, and you're like, oh my God.
You're like, okay, boomer, right?
Is that the phrase? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I just remember seeing the craziest things politically and seeing logic fly out the window and seeing very educated people make exceptions for their candidate and then buy in.
Yeah.
Although there's these glaring deficiencies out there that they have in other aspects of their life, they would never let that shit pass. But in politics, it's okay. I mean, that's where I got to the point where I'm living in a bizarro world and it really isn't worth engaging in it.
Right. I don't know if I know what you mean, actually. I don't know if I've seen that. I probably do know what you mean. I'm not understanding what you're saying. Yeah.
No, just I think people, as you grow up, people that you respected, like teachers, that generation, and let me say a generation above you, that you respected as a younger person, a little fearful of them.
Okay.
And now you start to see them as contemporaries,
right?
And other adults. They're just an older adult.
Yes.
And you see what you thought was the stodgy right way to look at things. And I don't mean right or left, just the correct way of looking at things, logical.
Yeah.
And you see the craziest shit. And you see educated people buying into just madness.
Right.
And that is insane to me.
It is. It's insane. And like I said, I think it has to do with the media. I think it has to do with whatever information they're ingesting,
Yeah, I don't know. Are we that weak, though, that we need to be told what to fucking do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that people are. I think that it's not everybody thinks for themselves. It's sad to say, but not everybody does. People need that. I don't really, yeah.
Well, let's make the correct right turn here, the comfortable right turn. Let's just get a little bit of your bio here.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, we ran that subject in the
No,
ground.
I find it funny. No, I find it amazing though that with comedians, because you would think there'd be a logical progression, a theme that it's hearing about a comedian's background, but there's never one reoccurring theme. There's a billion different stories there. So, like, at what point in your life did you say to yourself, "Hey, I'm pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think I'm funny."
Yeah.
At least for yourself. And then you just said, "Hey, this is an area of life I think I want to pursue."
Well, I'll disagree with you respectfully. I think there is a theme, and I think it's trauma. I think anyone who has the balls to want to go, I want to get on stage and have all of the attention, and you're not allowed to speak. I will speak. If you speak, you get thrown out, has some kind of problem that they've gone through in childhood. They're messed up a little bit.
Okay.
That's the theme.
All right.
But when I was 8, my dad used to watch a lot of stand-up.
Okay.
When I was 8, there was some kind of a Johnny Carson rerun on. I'm coloring on the floor, just lying there. And it's in black and white. And this guy walks out, starts speaking, and the audience starts laughing. And I look up, and I don't know what's going on. And I go, why are people laughing? And my dad goes, because he's funny. And I said, well, if he's so funny, why isn't he laughing? And my dad goes, because a good comedian never laughs at his own jokes. And that was the first time I heard the word comedian.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, comedian. And I'm just watching it. I'm not laughing. I'm not getting the jokes. I'm just watching what's going on and seeing this kind of power dynamic and seeing this person evoke this reaction in people with nothing but words. It was very powerful to me. And I was like, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. So at 8 years old, and it was very cut and dry. Like, that's my life. And I didn't even know that much about it. But I loved whatever I saw. Yeah. I was like, that's so powerful to be able to make people laugh and feel great.
Do you remember what comedian it was?
I don't know. And I'm not even sure if it was Johnny Carson.
Okay.
But, so at that point, it was just wait until I'm old enough to do it. I had already decided. It's just like some weird connection was made. Like I had discovered what I was meant to do in life. That's how I felt. So then after that, it was kind of like, as I went on through my childhood, I stumbled upon the Three Stooges.
Okay.
Never seen the Three Stooges before. And I was like, my mouth was open. I was shocked.
So violence entered your life at a young age.
I was like, who are these people? Who are these grown men acting like this right now? And my dad goes, those are the Three Stooges. And I'm like, Three Stooges? All right. I just figured out what my next year is going to look like and just completely consumed everything Three Stooges. Thought it was the greatest thing ever. So funny. Made me feel so good. And I would read books about them. And in those books, they would mention like the Marx Brothers. I'd be like, well, who are the Marx Brothers? Right. And then I'd go watch all of their movies. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Oh, Charlie Chaplin. Who's that? Oh my God, this is the greatest thing. Buster Keaton. So I learned, it was like I went through a school. I put myself through some kind of comedy training and learned from the beginning of vaudeville through up until, I'm in high school, and now Comedy Central is a channel, and I'm watching stand up there.
Okay.
And Letterman. And I had to wait until I was 18 to get on stage. So all through high school, just comedy was everything for you. Yeah, even before high school. Middle school.
Testing out material on the school bus or
no, I did make friends laugh a lot. Like, people did think I was very funny, but I wasn't writing jokes or anything like that. I wasn't writing yet until I decided to officially get on stage. But I was funny and weird and strange. I did a lot of videos. I did video editing and would film funny videos.
All right.
I wanted to go to film school, which I did at Point Park. And then, but as soon as I got on stage that first time at the Improv when I was 18, I was like, well, there's no school for stand-up comedy. Back then there wasn't, or comedy. You couldn't major in comedy like you can now. I'm like, this is the only way to learn how to do this. So I'm going to do this.
No fear.
Dropped out of college, did 1 year, dropped out, and just full-time focused on being a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe freaked out people around you.
my parents knew that's what I wanted to do, but they didn't take it seriously.
Okay.
They were like, that's just like a dream or something. Like, but then I did, and it never, they were, my mom definitely was concerned that it never stopped. She wanted me to get a real job with security and benefits. And I'm like, never going to happen. She wanted me to get like married and have a family, and I was like, not gonna happen right now. I'm 18. What are you talking about? So
Pittsburgh. That's so Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Well, especially my mom. My mom had her first kid when she was like 16, 15. She got married super early. She's from West Virginia.
Okay.
So like her life, she's like, she cannot understand what I'm doing at all. Even now, and I've been doing it since I'm 18. She's just like, so when are you coming home? And I'm like, look, I've never. When are you settling down? I don't know. Who knows? When are you should, the post office is hiring, Felicia, right?
I think every kid that the parents believe is wandering in their life gets that. The post office.
Why is it always the post office?
That's a recurring theme there.
It's a government job that has great benefits. Okay. Well,
the post office might be hiring.
But that was the moment when I was 8. That was when I officially decided, which is probably bizarre. A lot of people don't decide until they're much older.
That's cool, though. That's very cool. It was the first gig at the Improv at 18 years old. Was that an open mic night, or is that so? So those who are not big comic aficionados, what is open mic night? What is theoretically? How does that operate?
Well, the mic is open for anyone to come and try out whatever they want to do.
Embarrass the shit out of themselves.
That's right. You're probably going to bomb. Yeah, unless you've been doing it a while. Or unless you stack the audience with your friends who are cheering for you, whether or not.
Did you do that?
No. But it's something we used to say, because they used to make you bring people to get on stage. Like, you must bring 10 people. It's like, if I had 10 friends, I wouldn't be a comedian. That's what we used to say. If I knew 10 people, I wouldn't be here right now. So, so open mic, you can sign up beforehand, or sometimes you can show up and go up, and they'll give you 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. And you just go see what you're made of and how people respond to you.
Just cut your teeth. So how'd that first night go?
I bombed, and I didn't care, because I was in this for the long haul. I went in with a mentality like, this is my career. Okay. So I knew I was going to suck for a while, and I was okay with that.
All right.
But I went up and I did sound effects. I had sound effects.
Wait, what? Wait a second.
Yeah.
I only think about that guy from the Police Academy movies.
Michael Winslow.
Yeah, that's the only person I ever know comedic-wise.
Well, that guy is the sound effect guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was not Michael Winslow. I was not killing the sound effects.
Can you give us an example? You remember any of that material?
I don't. It was like any act out that would happen, I would have a sound. I would try to make the sound effect, like put your window up, zzz, and then. But it was terrible. People were just staring at me. I felt like a jackass because I didn't know. You don't know who you are. You're 18. You don't know what your voice is. You don't know what kind of material you're going to end up doing. So I just had like 4 minutes of this awful material.
Is that a long 4 minutes when you're up there?
A little bit. You're just trying to remember the material and get through it. And then I finished early. So I was like, I have a little bit of time left. So I'm just going to throw out this one-liner that I wrote. And I threw out the one-liner, and people laughed. And I was like, oh, okay.
This is what I'm supposed to do.
I need to write one-liners. And that's how that went.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you go home after that first show, and it's like you're certain this is what you want to do. But what is the career path for a comedian? Like, there isn't any kind of clear-cut career path.
That's correct. I went in with the mentality of just, I got advice from everyone, and every single person was like, just get on stage as much as you can. So that was my goal. I did want to make a living doing it, so that was a goal too. But anything. I would drive 2 hours to Cleveland
Okay.
to do an open mic, just to get stage time. That was the key. So just that's the career path, really, and the better you get, the more you do it, the more other people will notice to give you opportunities, help you out, book you on shows.
Right.
And it just snowballs from there. That was my path. Not everybody has that path. Some people get on television after only 4 years in.
Got it.
So everybody's path is different.
So what were you doing to support yourself early on?
Odd jobs. I worked at Subway. I worked at Toys R Us. I worked at I was a telemarketer like 3 different times.
Oh, that's a great place for material there, right? Come on.
Yep. I worked at movie theaters.
Another great place for material.
These minimum wage jobs that I could quit easily
Right.
if I got a gig and had to leave town.
Got it.
And also would hire me easily. And I would never put my, history on my application. I'd be like, this is my first job. And they'd be like, okay, great, you're hired. They didn't know how many times I quit in the past, But eventually the more I got on the road, I couldn't even work a job a whole week through because I was getting booked, but also getting booked as an MC. I'm not making enough money to live. So I started house cleaning.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a great job because back then it was like $15 an hour,
Right.
cash.
Right.
Make
right,
my
right.
own schedule, work 4 hours at a time. So I make $60 here, $60 there. And I started doing that. And that, now I'm making double minimum wage. So that's pretty good. And making my own schedule, going
Right.
out of town.
Right.
And then I shifted that into dog walking,
Okay.
which was even better because I don't have to deal with people when I dog walk. When I'm house cleaning, somebody's there. You have a housewife there,
Really? All the time?
Yeah, and they're catty and they are gossipy. And I mean, there were times where I would work a house and then work the house across the street, and that woman would call the other one, be like, well, did she clean this of yours? Because they'd be on the phone talking about me as I'm there because they have nothing better to do. But so no, but that wasn't like, I didn't really have anything terrible happen. But dog walking is much better. I just
Okay.
deal with dogs.
Okay.
They're great.
Okay. Okay.
They're friendly. They love you. So just walk into a person's house, get the dog, walk it, go back, lock the house, and leave.
Yeah, but there probably isn't that much material out there with the dogs, right?
No, but I don't like for me, the material started shifting. The longer I did comedy, it just became more and more personal and less observational.
Okay.
So I didn't need to pull material externally anymore.
Okay.
It was more like how I respond to things and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily need like material from, external sources anymore.
So what is the writing process for you? Is it structured at all? Because every comedian
No.
I've met pretty much tells me no.
No, it's not. If you're disciplined, it should be. Pretty much you just need discipline. You need to write every day. Writing is like digging for buried treasure, as I was told, which is very true.
Okay.
Right. I used to
Okay.
be the kind of comedian who would never write, but then when I did, it would just be good. And that is a thing.
Okay.
That's a comedian who doesn't come up with a lot of new material, but when they do, it's pretty solid. That was me. But then you have comedians who come up with new material all the time. It might not be great, but it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't me because I wasn't disciplined enough.
Okay.
I am lazy. That's a big issue with comedians. We're lazy. It's tough to just make yourself sit down and write material and try to come up with something out of nothing. But that is the key.
Yeah.
It's just hard work.
How do you do you try material out on people? Do you have a process?
No, I used to, and that's something that younger comedians will do.
Okay.
Try it out on their friends, other comics. What do you think of this? But then the more you do it, I heard this, Woody Allen did this interview. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he did a series of interviews with comedians, and Woody Allen was one of them. And Woody Allen said, I never tell my ideas before I do them because it can never go right. You can either say it to try a joke out on somebody, and if they're a comic and it's a good joke, they're not going to laugh. They're going to think, oh, fuck, that's a good joke. I wish I would have thought of that.
Oh, yeah.
And if it isn't funny, they're going to go, no, that's not good. And it doesn't matter. You should only do it in front of the audience.
Yeah,
so I don't
so
try stuff out on people anymore.
No, I get that. I've been with a few comedians socially in regards to being out having dinner or having, that was a weird thing to say.
I was going to say, I'm sorry.
I have, but I've watched a couple of them like throw new material out there, whole court in a restaurant and do it. In a couple instances, it was successful. In a couple instances, it was really uncomfortable.
It's not cool. If you do that in front of other comedians will just be like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? Stop it." That's somebody we refer to as like on all the time. It's like you don't even get it, man. Just to stop.
Yeah, can somebody be on all the time?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. They can't shut it off. That doesn't mean they're funny, all the time.
It
just means that they're on. They're trying to make you laugh. They're constantly like throwing out. It's very irritating and annoying. It's like, just be yourself, just relax, chill out.
So someone wouldn't look at that and say, well, they are being themselves. They're just funny all the time. You're saying that no one's on all the time, naturally. You have to want to be that way.
I guess it could be a certain demeanor that is insecure and uncomfortable that makes that person feel like they need to be constantly joking.
Okay. That's
what's annoying about it. It's like you're not comfortable, so you're making us uncomfortable, with your discomfort.
Right.
But people who are on all the time are never funny all the time. That's what's annoying about it. You have to balance that out with some sincerity and.
But how would your real friends really ever know then whether they're being played as whether think about it, whether you're trying out new material, whether they're being played or if it's the real you?
Well, I would say if they don't know, they're not your real friends. Because a person you can tell if somebody's trying to, because there's a disconnect. If I went into a bit right now, you would know it. You would be like, oh, she's not trying to connect with me anymore. She's running material by me. People feel it. And it feels kind of like skeezy a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if it's a format where you're on the radio, and that's understood that somebody's going to come in and do material, of course you go along with it. But if it was just us talking somewhere, and I went in, you would feel that disconnect happen. You would feel kind of robbed. You would feel like, what are you doing here?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I've always just expected to be, catered to comedically, no matter when I'm around the community, that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So maybe I haven't looked at it that way, but I see what you're saying. There's a authenticness to it.
Yeah.
Just being yourself.
Now, if you're talking about a person who's a professional comedian, who's a headliner, who is hilarious off stage,
right?
Of course you're going to have that. That's a thing. But that's not them being on. That's them partying, I would say. Like, they're partying, having a good time. They're still entertaining. In a sense, they're still on stage.
Yeah.
This is after the show. Fans are around.
Right.
They're getting off on that attention.
Right.
But that doesn't last very long,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So
let's say you're out, the group of people. Let's say you're at a bar, socially, not there for comedic reasons. And you're, at a table of like 10 people, and you say something, it always comes up, and they're laughing at what you're saying. Are you ever tempted just to go with it and just let it go for 20 minutes?
20 minutes? No. Usually if I'm with a group of 10 people, I'm not saying anything. I'm very kind of a little bit introverted. So, and most comedians are. Most comedians are like, we don't want to be around 10 people unless we're on stage and you're in the audience. But no, I think people who do that are obnoxious. If there's a group of now, if you say something funny, it makes the whole table laugh. That's great. But if you take over then and try to keep going with that,
hold court.
It's not gonna.
I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen with two national comedians in a social setting. It was very odd. It was odd. Now that I look back on it now, I thought it was hysterical when it was happening, but
they didn't go for 20 minutes, did they?
No, didn't go 20 minutes. But I bet you one of them went for a good 10. Okay. And then it was an awkward thing because then it was like no one knew if he was shutting it off or when he was going to shut it off or were we still supposed to be laughing. Or
yes.
There was a weird. it was kind of, yeah, good point. It was like, it was almost, when does the performance end and the natural conversation comes back?
It eventually wore off for you guys, and you were like, all right, we're good now.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Pretty much. Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
He started bombing and running the light. That's
How,
what
you're
happened.
assuming it was a he?
Oh, it was a woman?
Oh.
Was it a woman?
Mm-hmm.
It was. And nationally touring?
Mm-hmm. We'll talk.
Okay.
We don't want to out anybody
Yeah,
here.
I usually default to he anyway. It could be a woman, though.
So women in comedy in general, what's your thoughts? I mean, is there not enough
They
of you?
suck. No, I'm just kidding. Women,
Okay, here we go.
Women aren't funny. Everyone knows this. What are you even asking this question for? It's been established. We should not be on stage. We should be having babies and in the kitchen. And,
That's what your mom told you.
Exactly. And she was right, Eric. She was right. I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on women in comedy. I just think...
Does anybody even think in terms of gender anymore in comedy? I wouldn't think so, right?
You know...
There's still chauvinism, but I mean, is it really a big thing like it probably was 20, 30, 40 years ago?
It's a thing. But the thing is, and this may be because I started when I was 18, so I was around it at a very early age. I got used to it.
Okay.
I wasn't one of these people who was like, you can't say that. If you were a person like that back then, you were way too sensitive to even be in comedy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like,
right,
grow
right.
a thicker skin. This is not an easy career or business. You're on the road.
Right.
You're by yourself. You're alone. You're around alcoholics and drug addicts and people who are, cheating on their wives who are pregnant at home with a waitress the next door over in the condo.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing right now. So if somebody, hits on you or makes a comment in passing and you get offended by that, you're not cut out for this business. That's kind of the mentality that was taught to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, people go over the line. Of course, you shouldn't be sexually assaulted or raped or anything serious like that. I never experienced anything like that, and I've shared condos with people. I have on a whim gone to Nashville to do an open mic and said I'll find somebody to crash with and meet an open micer there and crash on his couch and never had an issue at all.
Right.
Now you be smart about it. You don't leave your drink or you don't get drunk, Be smart about it. You be accountable for anything that you bring into that situation and also choose the right people, whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I was just lucky that nothing ever happened to me or I don't know, but yeah, I
understand what you're saying. I guess the reason I bring that up is we're so uber sensitive in this society, and the path I'd like to go down with you would be, what's your thoughts on comedy in general? Are there, in your framework, really any boundaries in comedy? Should there be any boundaries in comedy, or should it be left up to the individual a comedian and the artist as to where good taste or any taste lies?
For me, a boundary would be a joke about pedophilia. And that's just my opinion, because
pedophilia is not funny.
Not really. I don't think so. Now, I would say and most people say, as long as it's funny, it's okay. You can say anything as long as it's funny.
That's kind of where
only an issue
I subscribe to.
It's only an issue if it's not funny, right? But the problem is a lot of people don't have a sense of humor now. So to them, it's not funny. So to them, it's offensive. Whereas to another person, be like, well, I get the joke. I don't see the big deal.
Yeah,
right?
And that's where comedy has changed in the past 50 years.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, people are. It's almost gone backwards, but I think it's important. Free speech is important. That's one of the reasons I love stand-up comedy, because it is free speech, and that's really special and important and should So for me, but I would never, if somebody did a joke about pedophilia, I would never try to make that person lose their job or career,
cancel them out.
Never, because freedom of speech.
Right.
so what? It was in poor taste, or it wasn't funny, or they said something they shouldn't have said. It's still America. You still have a right to be. That free speech is how we find out who's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's funny to me, for the 18 months we've done this show and the amount of comedians we've had, there's all kinds of opinions, and it's funny. It's interesting to me to see we have come a long way in censoring ourselves.
Right.
In the comedic arena.
Yeah. Well, because people are losing their jobs. There are consequences. If you say the wrong thing, you're canceled forever. Nobody will hire you.
Would Lenny Bruce survive today? Would Richard Pryor? Would George Carlin? Would these even early Bill, not Bill Cosby's per se, but early Eddie Murphy? Would these folks be able to do what made them very successful?
Yeah, I don't think it's that severe yet, where people are so censored that that it's that big of an issue. I think those people today would actually thrive. I think people today are really saying a lot more than they used to say.
When you say today, give me time frame.
Like,
the last 5 years?
Currently, yeah. People are saying a lot. Like Lenny Bruce, he was just arrested for just swearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People now are like, they're saying the most ridiculous, I don't even know how to say this, but people are being much more expressive now. So I don't think it's to the point where, and I hope it doesn't get there, but yeah, if somebody says something, a word, it'd be like, oh my God, everyone loses their shit.
Right.
You're canceled. You can't say that. So I think that's why people are self-censoring. But, and I guess it is bad, but I think people should say whatever they want a lot more. I really do.
The self-censoring is, and this is where I had this conversation with Tom McGallis, who was on, who does not do stand-up, but he's involved in the comedic arena a lot and writes a lot. I go, where are the lines? Like, where are the boundaries? The concept of boundaries and comedy, those two words don't even go together, really.
I agree. Yeah.
But we're living in a society that's uber offended. I hate that word.
Yeah.
But they are.
They are offended because they don't have a sense of humor.
I guess so.
That's what it boils down to. They don't have a sense of humor. They have a victim mentality. They're triggered, whatever, that's what it, but that's not how I live my life. That's not how a lot of people I hang out with live. So
right.
We just we don't care. But we don't have anything, you can only really get canceled when you get something. We're nobodies. So we have that freedom to do whatever we want. Or say whatever we want.
Okay.
Technically, so does everyone else, but under the Constitution. But
right.
But a place will fire you. So I guess it all depends on what your like. If you're somebody like you, and if this podcast just like took off, like you said, you don't have sponsors. You want it. You want it to be free and unedited. The only problem you would have is just with whoever is in your audience saying, we don't like what you said, but you're not going to run the risk of like someone firing you because you'd be your own boss.
Yeah. It's so this whole space is so interesting. We talked a little bit off camera about where comedians, entertainers fit in the podcasting space, because a lot of them, that space, look at me, we're using this new agey word, space. These millennials love the word space. New agey word, right? Medium. I'll say medium. Where comedy fits in this medium is really still being vetted out, really. Because, like, we don't take sponsors on this show.
Yeah.
And I have no delusions that we're going to be a big national show. I just don't. We do what we do, and it's going to run its course and run its course. I'm good with that. But had the goal here been monetary, to find sponsors and so forth,
right?
It is what it is. If I had to do that, I would. But it really does kind of cripple your ability to be free when you're worried about pissing off people in your space.
Yeah.
and I think that's the tough line that goes. Like, I don't, it's great to say anything goes here. We're unvarnished and edited. It's true.
It feels amazing.
The issue is, at some point, there's nothing wrong with monetizing anything. That's how the capitalism makes the country go. But it's that give and take. Like, how much money justifies how much loss of my freedom? And I think that's when it comes to podcasting and this whole environment, you got a hodgepodge of people that want to use it like radio and monetize it, and then people like me who just like, hey, just let it go.
Yeah.
And where is that? Where is that going to meet in the middle? Because it's still being defined, and comedians have a rougher go at it. Yeah, you got to have more material, I think. But number two, like, where are those boundaries for you? Where do you push them? And how far can you go? And it's I won't say it's dangerous. It's just slippery.
Yeah, and it's like selling your soul, pretty much, is what it is. So that's for every individual to decide what their price is. But I think what you're doing, I think that's the right way to do it, for sure. Well,
yeah, and I think I'm fortunate that I didn't need this project as to feed my family. I had this is a side project, so I can afford to be autonomous, but it does yield for better conversations and all that stuff. And I just think about, like, Rogan, we talk about Joe Rogan off here, and he, was making great money doing his own thing with Google ads, but he also takes other ads. Now, I think these companies are on the area, they're not fringe companies, but they're companies that are really not worried about offending anybody. When you talk about like manscaping and things like that, they really don't give a shit if they're offending. Or alcohol tends to be a little looser in terms of who they sponsor.
Right.
Yeah, so, it works for him. But there still is this Spotify arrangement. Are you familiar with that? Like,
yeah, I heard about it.
And there's always going to be that cloud now.
Right.
And the money's amazing. I don't blame him. I would have taken the money. But there's going to be that cloud that he's going to need to fight through, if he cares to, that they're not censoring or steering his show. I don't think it was a good idea to have Miley Cyrus, one of the first new guests, because it just made everybody think, okay, Spotify, Miley Cyrus, they told him he had to have her on that show. So
I'm sure he probably struck some kind of deal with them where he was like, I can say whatever I want. Something
I hope
like
so.
that.
I hope so.
He didn't need that. Like you say, when you're in a position, a power position where you don't need it, you can walk away and go, oh, you don't want me to do this? No, I'm not.
Because Joe broke the mold. This show and probably thousands of other shows like this across the country and across the world are set up on a format that, uses his model as the model.
Yeah. It's amazing what he's done. One of the biggest shows right now.
And it happened organically, right? I mean,
yes. And he said, I've heard him say, I'm just going to keep doing it. He said he got basically 0 listeners for a long time. And he was like, I'm just going to keep doing it. I don't care.
It's the attitude. It's the way. And I think but see, most of society's not wired that way. I don't think people want more gratification, instant or near instant gratification. Then they quit. We're society of quitters. There's great people that do great things. And think about it. If you had quit in your first year, if you had a couple of bad shows, a couple of bad reviews, whatever, and you would quit, it was easy to quit. You could have just walked away and done something else. But people that don't quit end up making it. Yeah,
that's true. And it is, you can feel the difference between something like this that's organic, like you said, and you want to do it, and you want to do it your way. You want to work for yourself, be your own boss. You want to have freedom of expression. Versus something where it's like, oh, we have sponsors and we can't do this and we have this strict format that we have to, and these rules we have to follow. But I also think there's something to be said about you can find a way. I think if you're good and really creative and intelligent, you can also find a way to say exactly what you want to say and not be offensive too. That's the other side of the argument, right? Where people go, oh, when someone says something that is offensive, they go, oh, I just made a bad joke. And then the other side goes, well, you can't just fall back on the excuse that it was a joke. Be more creative if that's what you want to say. And there is a point to that too. Find another way to say it
Mm-hmm.
Be inventive.
Yeah. So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, you understand that there's. If I'm hearing you correctly, I think what you're saying is that you understand that certain things in society are hurtful to people, and you're not looking to intentionally hurt anybody.
Nobody is.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
Yeah.
I truly believe nobody is looking to intentionally hurt someone.
But we've forgotten that concept because we're so offended.
Right. We're triggered, right? People are triggered. That's a trigger for me. You're bringing up some unresolved trauma in my life that I don't want to think about.
But that's not the other person's problem. See, that's where personal responsibility has to take a hold at some point.
I agree with you. There is a personal responsibility, and other people have rights as well. Freedom of speech. So if somebody does say something, it can be a conversation, but you don't have to cancel that person forever. You don't have to make them out to be some kind of monster. I mean, we're talking about a tweet, or something, or a sentence. It's like, come on.
It's a cry for attention from the other side, in my opinion. You want to elevate your own opinion of your own importance.
Right.
I'm important because I'm offended, and I'm going to do something to show you that was wrong.
Right.
Because I'm important.
But
that's insane.
Well, but you do need that extreme to pull it a little bit that way too. It is insane. It is extreme, but it's just you need both sides to have the balance,
the push
right?
and pull.
So all these women in the Me Too movement and all that stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, we're tired of the way that men do certain things. We're tired of the way men operate in certain ways, and we've tried to tell you men nicely, and they aren't listening, so we're going to push back with this force now. And then, unfortunately, something happens to something happens to a man who probably doesn't deserve to be canceled forever because he made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean he's a monster like the other men that we've seen and experienced, but that guy just happened to have that
right.
to get the brunt of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you do need there are casualties.
There's casualties.
Yeah, but I think that both sides are important. I do. I think that no one side should dictate, right? No one side should dictate what happens. We shouldn't have women who are just like, fuck men altogether. That should never be the case, right? Or you can't, but you also can't just have men being like, well, fuck women.
It's a moderation thing.
Yeah.
Although most men are feeling that way.
I agree that they do. I agree that they do. And a lot of women feel the same way toward men. Fuck men, fuck all men, fuck all women, But
yeah, it's such a slippery slope, but it's such a great conversation to really vet that out. Like, what can you do? Because there's Craig Gass is on the show. He brought up two good points. One was the fact that Eddie Murphy was being welcomed back to Saturday Night Live, and at the same time that was happening, coincidentally, Saturday Night Live had dismissed the new comic they had just hired because he had a bad tweet or something years prior, an off-color tweet about. I think it was a different race. I think it was the Oriental race. He said he made a couple off.
Oh, you're talking about Shane Gillis, who
I guess I can't.
Yeah, his name is Shane Gillis, and he had a podcast, and he some things that he said. He got hired.
Got it.
On Saturday Night Live as a writer or a performer or something like that. And then people immediately went back into his history and like tried to watch everything.
To cancel him out.
They sought it out. Yeah. And then that's what happened.
But it was the timing of it, because Murphy was coming back to guest host that particular week, and Craig's point was, look, we all, from our age bracket, we have Eddie's first two albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to really go deep into those albums to get the point. The point is you're welcoming him back, which you should. But you're also basically cutting the legs off from under this guy here.
Right. But, at the end of the day, that attention gave that comic a new platform.
It did, but it's
yeah.
still it still seems to be a poor decision on the network's behalf.
Well, they have to. It's for them. He's not worth the trouble. That's what that is. It's like, well, if this is already this big of a deal, we'll just cut you loose.
So it's a business decision,
right?
Okay, so and Eddie Murphy being the star power he is, that's a business decision too. But I do find it hypocritical to a degree that a network will buy into so much of the other flavors of the day when it comes to being offended, because there's a new thing every week, right? So you have that part of the network and their network brass and their viewership. And here's a man who has a past when society was different then. Things were viewed a little differently. And he played to the audience in that era, and he has that in his history, but it's okay now. I think it's okay. I think he should be able to work anywhere he wants, and I understand it, but to me, it's hypocritical. Like, we will pick and choose where we choose to let our offensive people enter our sphere.
Right.
Which is insane.
Well, it's also hypocritical because the public didn't care that Eddie Murphy was coming back, right? The public was like, fuck yeah, Eddie Murphy. Like, so it's show business. And when you're at that level of show business, when you're Lorne Michaels, I guess, you do have to kind of, I would assume, do what is best for the business. So it's hypocritical because society is hypocritical.
Right.
See what I mean?
Exactly right. Well, also, I look at the broader picture there from a corporate standpoint, and I think you have to put the networks in what we call media, whatever media means anymore, but all your big five networks, those media houses, they also they also have loudspeakers to the public, and the public is really entrenched with them. So I think you not hold them to a different standard, but we view them a little differently. And they're engaged in so much of very progressive ways of thinking, because the media is always, for decades and decades, have looked at society and tried to have their influence in society in regards to a progressive lean. The flavor of the month, the offense of the month. This has been going on forever, and that's okay, and we've accepted it. But you can't have it both ways, because bringing Murphy back is everything against what you're generally for.
Yeah.
And how do you reconcile that is my point. But it seems like in the end, like you said, the public loves him. The public's going to determine anyways. Yep. So I think it's interesting that they get to have their cake and eat it too in that circumstance. We can be offended and choose to be offended when it suits us. But when it comes to the heavy money, we'll overlook some things. Yeah. Right?
I agree. And I do think it is like you got to just have to deal with whatever people want. Nobody's going to be like, oh no, fuck Eddie Murphy. People were so excited about that. So yeah. And this guy, Shane Gillis, who we don't know him. We don't trust him. It's not part of our childhood.
So check this out. Had Shane Gillis in a parallel universe had Dave Chappelle's run, let's say the past 6 years, Shane Gillis had gone monster big, and Lorne Michaels and the staff at SNL and NBC cut a deal to bring him on the show. And then this happened, they wouldn't care.
No.
He'd be on that show right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right?
Yes, you're right.
He had success.
He's ingrained in the minds and hearts of people. There's I guess there's a trust factor there. There's we connect, with Eddie Murphy or whoever.
Yeah. I'm not coming at you as a right or wrong thing. I just find it fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's fascinating.
And you're right. It is
how the decisions are made.
It is hypocritical, but I mean, that's everything, That's show business, and that's what you learn when you're around show business long enough. You're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. This is not this magical thing that my dreams are not. This isn't real. What I thought it is an illusion. It is show business. It is it's a show.
Right.
And when you're around it and you start seeing how it really is, it is.
Right. When you go into a particular room to work, you want to know your audience a little bit ahead of time. But when you're out on a tour and you're all these places you've never been before, you don't know what to expect, right? There's no way to know what the audience is going to be.
You never know what's going to happen, but after doing it for so many years, you
size them up.
You have so much experience that, yeah, for me, I love, every comic is different. I love going into the room, walking into the back of it just to see, like, yeah, just size them up a little bit. Be like, okay, are they rowdy? Are they drunk? Are they tired? Are they energetic? Because that helps me know how to approach them.
Okay.
You know, as an MC, if I'm MCing.
And so for our audience, that means you're MCing.
You're the first person. You're hosting the show.
And you come in between each.
You go up first. You do like 10 minutes, introduce the show, kick it off. Then you introduce the feature, who does 20 to 30 minutes.
Right.
Then you go back up, and then you introduce the headliner.
Okay.
And then you close out the show at the end just by saying thank you for coming, good night. So you're kind of the glue that holds everything together.
Okay.
And it is, you know, a really important key. Every position is important, but host is very important.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because the newest people are the hosts, but if you have a host who's good and experienced, it makes the show even better.
Okay.
Because you're the first person they're seeing. So
are there MCs that are not funny? Like they just
most of them aren't funny because they're so new, you know? Absolutely.
So there's no, so they really aren't experienced MCs because at that point they're doing their own gig.
You don't get, it doesn't pay very well. So yeah, they give it to the newer people and you bite the bullet and all that. But that's what I do. I like to walk the room. I don't like to stay in the room. I also don't like to show up too early. You know, some people like to get there early and like watch the audience walk in and all that. I don't like to do that. I just like to show up. If I can show up 5 minutes before I go on stage, that's ideal for me. They want you there earlier than that, but 5 minutes, check out the crowd. Okay, I'm ready to go. If I think about it any longer, it might get in my head. I might get nervous. But yeah, once you reach a certain point, you can look at, you can just walk into the room and feel, okay, I can see how this might go, you know, or I can see what I need to do here.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the worst heckler you ever dealt with? Or one of the worst?
I haven't had a horrible time with hecklers. Geez. I was opening up for Bill Burr at the Atlanta Punchline, which is in a different location now. But this was back, like, right when Bill Burr was about to be huge. Like, people kind of knew who he was. Okay. And he was absolutely, like, killing it, on fire. And I was hosting. They added a third show that night. There's usually only 2 shows a night. It was 11 p.m. Saturday. Okay. And I told the manager, and I'm like, man, like, I was pretty new. So I'm like, do you care if I just go up there and, like, experiment a little bit? I don't really feel like doing my jokes. And this guy...
Wait. When you say experiment, what do you mean?
I mean, just
you're a comedian. You're going to do your jokes?
Can I go up there and do whatever the hell I want? And this guy, this manager was, you know, stupidly was like, sure. He should have been like, no, do your act. But he was like, what do I care? And I go up with a video camera and I'm like taping the audience. I'm just fucking around, you know, trying to have fun and entertain myself, and I'm like taping the audience. It was a bad idea, you know, and I'm just like, oh, look at this audience, look at this person, look at this person. And I'm not, nobody's into it, nobody's loving it. And this guy goes, she sucks. And I was so new, I didn't handle that. I just let it sit there, you know, it just hung there in the air. And I was just kind of like,
oh, you didn't address it.
No, I was so new, you know. And
so it hadn't happened to you at that point? Prior?
Nothing like that, yeah. So I was just like, I didn't know what to say.
You didn't say anything?
I didn't feel, no. But I, like, turned the camera off, put it down, and then went into my material and bombed the rest of the shit. But like, I was totally deflated and kind of like.
So he got to you, the heckler, then?
Oh, it definitely got to me. I didn't expect somebody to do that, and he probably didn't expect it to affect me. He probably, you know, felt bad. He was like, "Oh shit,
man, I didn't mean to hurt her."
Yeah, and it did. I was like, "Oh, okay," but. Yeah, just because I was so new. At this point, somebody could say anything, and I would be able to handle it. Yeah, it'd be fun.
So, do you, as part of your act, do you like audience engage? First?
I do. It's not a big part of my act unless it's going really well, and then it will be extended. But I was
beware.
I was bad at that for a long time.
Okay,
and part of that is realizing. You don't have to be hilarious with whatever's going on immediately. And as soon as I learned that and I calmed down, like if someone speaks to you, not as a mean heckler, but they're just talking, or they say something out loud and everyone can hear it, and you go to address it and they say, it's like you don't have to slam them immediately. You don't have to go that route. And if you do it the wrong way, the crowd's going to turn on you and you're going to lose them anyway. So you just, it's trial and error. You make mistakes, you learn from it. I learned that I don't have to come up with something hilarious immediately. I can keep asking questions and let it kind of simmer and then get to the funny part. And that's just all having experience in being calm and not letting it phase you.
Okay.
So once I learned that, and I could approach crowd work in a more calm way, and not put that pressure on myself to be hilarious instantly, that's when I became much better at crowd work. And, and so, that now it's really fun for me.
Is it, obviously, there's an interviewing skill when you're engaging in an audience, right? I mean,
a little bit.
You work an angle to try to get them to reveal something that you can use.
Right. I have no interviewing skills, I don't think.
Well, that's an interview.
It's really just me being curious or whatever. I'll be like, it doesn't have to do with anything. I'll be like, where'd you get those shoes? Or what's up with your hair? Or, most people say, what do you do for a living? I don't. That to me is too boring. Like, I can't. But or I would just ask a question out of nowhere. Or be like, oh, are you two together? Or how long are you, who is this? And are you drinking? What did you order? Well, they should.
I mean, they're sitting up front. They want the attention. Anyone that sits in the front two areas, right? I would think, unless they're really novices when it comes to comedy shows.
I don't think anybody wants attention ever at a comedy show. And if they do,
really?
They could definitely be sitting anywhere. They will get your attention. They could be all the way in the back of the room. If they want your attention.
Something flamboyant, or the way they're acting, or something like that. It's hard to.
They won't shut up. They'll yell. They'll do whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, but for the most part, I think people who are in the front row don't want to be in the front row. I think that they are like,
really?
Yeah. Most people come in. They say, "Don't put me in the front row." Yeah.
Wow, didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I've never asked to be in the front row. I've ended up in the front row.
Yeah.
Just by circumstance on a few occasions. Have regretted it.
Mm-hmm. You feel exposed up there, yeah. You're like, oh, shit. Don't do nothing.
Well, but the thing was, though, I can remember being there, and a couple times I was engaged. Mm-hmm. The issue was never that I was really embarrassed by it. Yeah. Really embarrassed by it, because I was there to have a good time and to laugh. Yeah. I wasn't trying to compete with the comedian or embarrass the comedian. I just laughed and let them do their thing, because I was there to be.
Oh, you're perfect.
Well, I was there to be, not part of the act, but I'm there to laugh.
Right.
And if I say something, it's not supposed to be combative.
No.
I'm not a comedian. No one's going to laugh
at
anything I say.
Oh my God, you're the perfect
no
audience
one's going to laugh
member.
at anything I say, that's for sure. So, really? I think
Absolutely.
the people want to get combative.
The comedian doesn't want to have to compete with somebody in the crowd.
No, but I'm saying there's a lot of people that get combative.
If they're drunk, probably they might, yeah. Or if they don't like something you've said. I've seen a lot of that.
They're offended.
They're offended.
So right there, stop. Like, this is. T-Robe was on, and he made a great observation to me, because it's crazy to me that, like, people will come up and accost me after a show that I said something that offended them, but they paid to come to a comedy show.
Yeah.
And that's where everything gets nullified right there. And I'm not going to be out there hurting people intentionally, but you paid to come to a comedy show.
Right.
And that's my only response to anyone inquires about it. I'm sorry, but you paid to come to a comedy show.
It's true, but also people have an idea of what they think comedy is when they come to a show too, especially if they're seeing someone that is not a name that they haven't heard of or seen before,
Okay.
they don't know what to expect. They might just be like, let's go to a comedy club. Or these could be people who never go to a comedy club. It's their first time and they don't know what to expect. Like, oh, or they're tourists and they're like, oh, let's check this out.
And they leave and their face is like,
yes. And you do have good sports about where they're like, well, I went to that show. That guy wasn't for me, but oh well, still had a good time. It's like you roll the dice, you go into a movie that you don't know how it's going to turn out. If the movie sucks, you're like, well, that sucked, but
Right.
you don't go, I want a refund. It's
right.
No, it's entertainment.
Right.
It's live. You
Right.
paid the money. Now, people should do their own research before they come.
You research movies the best you can generally before you see a movie, right?
Yeah, So you watch some clips, see if. But I think most of the time, if people get offended, it's that person has said something that has struck a chord. The comedian has said something that struck a personal chord in a person that they have an issue with. Obviously, I'm like up here explaining what if being offended is. Like an idiot, but
you're talking to a guy that's unoffendable, by the way. I say that and people laugh at me. I'm like, nah, I mean, I might get a little put off, but I'll leave the circumstance before I get offended.
Exactly. And so, right, it takes a certain individual to be in a crowd and feel entitled enough to speak up and disrupt the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That happens, though.
But it happens.
Has it happened to you?
As far as people being offended, yes, it has. It has happened to me both. Usually, it hasn't turned into a conversation. If I say something that offends somebody, I'll get like a shocked sound from them, like, oh, like, can you believe she just said that? And I don't address it because I'm like, that's on you, right?
Uh-huh.
But I have
You've heard that though?
I've heard it a lot. Yeah.
Really?
And because I'm not like super dirty, but I'll say something like, balls smell like coffee sometimes, and people will be, and like women will be like, oh, like they're sickened by the fact that I've said, like, how
like, what were they doing the night before, right?
Exactly.
How can they possibly be offended by that?
That's part of it, that they just cannot
he probably
believe.
Didn't shower.
They cannot believe that there's a lady on stage saying this, and and I don't want to hear this, and oh my God, it's like. But if I hear a scoff or something like that, I will not address it.
Okay.
I'll hear it and go, it doesn't faze me. I'll be like, whatever, she's uncomfortable with that. Okay, I get it. I'll just keep going, But I have also, so people who yell out though, or someone might say a comment, a woman might say a comment under her breath. I have never had someone flat out yell out to me something combative. I've had people flat out yell out comments that were maybe complimentary, or like they feel like they have a tag to my punchline and they want the crowd to hear it. I've had that. I've never had anyone, flat out. You would have to be saying something pretty bad, I think,
right.
Or there would have to be something about me that is really rubbing you the wrong way to do that. But I have had women in the front row just under their breath kind of be like, and like they want me to hear it, but they don't want the whole crowd to hear it. And I don't address that either.
Yeah.
But I hear it. And but I have had people leave.
You address it, that gives them what they want.
Right. But I might look at them to show them I heard you. If you do it again, I might address you, and then you'll be embarrassed, But I heard you, and yeah, because you want people to have a good time at the end of the day. But I have had people leave the showroom. I haven't seen this because I was on stage, but I've had people tell me that people have left the showroom and gone into the lobby and complained and said, I can't believe she's up there saying this. I cannot believe she. Yeah, that's happened probably 3 times, which isn't a lot. But I was like, really? Like, it is always surprising. I did a show at a place called the Greenbrier in West Virginia.
Oh yeah, familiar with it.
Yeah, familiar.
Yeah.
It's just a one-nighter. It was just a one-nighter. It was
Didn't the name give you a little
the
hesitancy
Greenbrier
up front?
Well, I didn't know what the Greenbrier, and I was like, oh, this is like a bunker for presidents, and it has a lot of history, and okay. But when you go there, it's like, look, I don't want to talk shit about the Greenbrier. It's not that nice of a place. Okay, it's old, like it's run down, but I guess it does have this.
It's a stodgy crowd up there.
History or something.
Right.
And the guidelines were PG-13 for the show.
What does that mean? They tell you that?
You know, who knows? Who knows what that means? I guess when you look up PG-13, there's a lot you can say under PG-13. A lot.
Okay.
Like it's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty open. So I said bitch in my set, and I said dick. And you can say those things under PG-13.
Okay.
And there were no kids in the crowd, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was all adult crowd.
Yeah.
So, and this was a one-nighter. This was a while ago. The other comedian and I, who were splitting the headline spot, co-headlining, we weren't famous. Like we weren't. You're probably paying $10 to get in to see us, so you're not seeing some kind of amazing like we're funny, but
okay,
you know what I'm saying. So this woman, or a man actually, emails the Greenbrier after the show. And says,
Great.
I cannot believe the audacity of this girl who went up there and she said this and this. And by the way, the person who emailed lied. They threw in words that I didn't say to prove their point, feel justified. I cannot believe that she's up there saying bitch and dick and blowjob, which I don't say blowjob. I am sure that if the owner was there, he would have had her escorted off the premises by security. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You were that offended by those words. Words. So
it's
that's
a comedy
happened.
show.
Yeah.
That they paid to go see.
Right. But they weren't expecting that filth, Eric. So, and then I had another guy, somewhere I think it was in Indianapolis. Now, I don't remember where it was, but I had a joke that I told, and he went into the lobby and he was like, I can't believe she's saying this, because she's basically saying that all white people are evil, and which isn't what the joke was.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say the joke because it's outdated now. That's why. It's the only reason I won't say it. But it's like, oh, I can't believe, and I want to I can't believe you would have her here, and I want a refund and all the.
A refund?
Oh, you know what? It was in Indianapolis.
A refund?
I think it was in Indianapolis. Yes, and I can't believe you would have this person up there, and I can't believe she's saying this. This guy was really offended, and it was just this under the circumstances, and it was not a political joke. I'm not political in my set.
Right.
It was just a silly joke. And this guy, what was going on in his life and what he saw going on in the country, a lot of white people right now feel like they're being attacked, right? Like they're under attack. If you're a Trump supporter, you're white usually or whatever, and you feel like everyone hates you. He got that somehow out of this joke of mine that had nothing to do with that.
Right.
And he felt uncomfortable, and it made him feel attacked. So he goes out in the lobby and says, I can't believe she's saying this. I can't believe this. So you have to, so I understood, but at the same time, what's great about comedy clubs is that the managers will tell the people, like, we don't give refunds, that's part of the show. That's what the show is. You can go back, enjoy the rest of the show, or you can leave. It's
right.
But I mean, maybe they'll give a refund sometimes if the person's cool about it. But the majority of the time, the managers will be on the side of the comedian, and that's what's really great about that. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
But those are the only times that's really happened to me. And it didn't happen to me. Like, that person was, at least they went out into the lobby. At least they wrote an email and didn't disrupt me on stage,
Right.
So
Right. Ooh. Yeah, I don't get it. As a consumer of media, it's almost like do they run a movie and they're offended by the language 10 minutes into the movie and then call Comcast and want a refund for the movie?
No, because comedy is more accessible. The person is right there on stage, and you can talk to them after the show too. You know.
That would require a face-to-face meeting.
Exactly,
They don't
and
have
some
the courage
people
to
do.
do that.
And some people do. Some people will approach you and be nice about it, and they'll be like, you know, that joke you have, you shouldn't do that anymore because this is what happened to me, and da, 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 da. Like most people are nice about it, but it's just more in your face. You know, you're sitting there, the comedian's right. You feel personally offended. Yeah. Which, I don't know. It's kind of cool. I think that's kind of cool. I think because, like I said, words are powerful. So, but...
I never grew up with even the concept of what being offended means. And what I mean by that is, okay, you know, so I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. I don't know when being offended became part of the lexicon of society. Really, I don't, because I didn't care enough about what other people was saying generally.
Yeah.
That if they yelled at me, I kind of probably deserved it, I thought anyways. But like as a random stranger hearing something that I would say somewhere, not performance-wise, or anything, or a gesture I would make or whatever, they would like throwing the middle finger at someone and you're pissed off at them and they walk, I'm offended. Well, you're damn right you're offended. That was my intention, right? I don't know what that all means. I struggle with it every day.
The person who is offended these days feels entitled and they want you to change instead of just going, you know what, that offended me. I don't appreciate that.
Entitled that they deserve you change your behavior.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where, like you said, when you were a kid, you didn't even know what the concept of offended was.
There was always that one parent that would come to the school and, like, you know, give the teachers hell because their kid never. That they were just assholes.
Yeah, and when you were offended, people were like, "Who gives a fuck?" Right? That's what people told you. They were like, "Who gives a shit what you think?" That's also what people told me. So
offended meant like I had hurt feelings, which happened so infrequently as a kid because you just rolled with life. Right. Kid called your name on the schoolyard. I either called him a name back or I just rolled with it. It didn't. Right. It didn't. It kind of resolved itself. Yes. I didn't have to make it an issue.
Nobody became over the top ridiculous about it. Yeah, you're right.
It's a weird thing, and I think as I guess now a middle-aged person, I struggle with trying to understand it. And maybe I shouldn't try to understand it. It is what it is, and I got to deal with it.
It is tough to understand. It really is. I'm somebody who's in the middle of everything and I try to see both sides. But it's like you said, I guess part of it is the way you were raised, you know, the childhood you had. If we didn't have parents who spoiled us, I guess, or coddled us, we wouldn't think that way, you know. My parents were never like, how do you feel about that?
Right.
Ever. So, of course I don't understand. But I guess if you do have a parent that's like overly invested in you emotionally to the point, and you're raised that way, and then you go out in the world and somebody offends you, you do feel entitled because that's the house you grew up in. My voice matters. This makes me uncomfortable. But I guess maybe for you, but definitely for me, like the children did not rule whatever happened in the house growing up. The adults did. So
yeah, we didn't have a lot of choices as a kid. The choices because when you become offended, you have made a choice. You've made a choice to be offended. It isn't like someone did that to you. Like if I called you a horrible name, you chose to ingest that name. Yeah, you could walk away.
Right. Well, I don't know if being offended is a choice, but the choice, what you do about it is the choice, I think. Because there are things that have offended me, and it happened so quickly that I don't think it was conscious, you know? It was just like you feel that offense, like, oh my God. But then what you do about it, that's the choice. That's where the choice comes in, where you're like, well, and then you can think logically and go, well, okay, that offended me, but whatever, I'll just roll with it.
It might be the definition of the word offended. I think it's where the mix-up might be for me, and I might be getting it wrong, because when I look at the word offended, I immediately go to an action that the offended person is taking to become that way. You're looking at it almost like this could be a something that happens to you or around you that makes you feel a certain way, and I get that, because I felt icky many times when people say things, or I watch violence to other people. I don't like that. I guess that's a way of being offended, I guess.
Yeah, it's the initial hit. It's the initial emotion that you feel, which could, at the end of the day, just be hurt, right? Well, that hurts me. Right. And then you're right. Like, maybe that is just hurt. And then offense is when you take it to the next level and go,
you're probably
you
right.
Need to stop.
My definition is probably wrong. I just think that people make choices to be offended. And maybe I'm being insensitive because to somebody.
I see what you're saying now. When you're saying, like, where they take it to a level that's like, it's like, are you really that hurt by what this person said? Like the woman who wrote the email, right? Like, you're saying she made a choice to be offended. I would agree with that. It's like, okay, so you heard the words bitch and dick. Maybe they shocked you because you don't hear words like that ever. Or you didn't expect to hear that in this place that you have an idea of. Is a certain way.
Right.
So yeah, she or whoever wrote it did have to make the decision to follow through on that feeling, and instead of just going, well, okay.
Right, and that's where it becomes, I think, that the choice aspect of it. I guess in terms of, would you say being offended is a verb? Or is it I don't know. That would take some defining. I guess my issue is when we have all this free will and we choose to use that word to define the state that we're in. Yeah, I just don't. I don't think that's wrong to do that. You have the right to do it. I'm just saying I don't partake in that because it's not constructive.
It's not
for me.
Right.
You know?
That's the thing. If you're offended, somebody has found a weakness of yours. That's your job to fix that weakness. That's the way I look at it, right? If somebody gets to me, that means I have a spot. I have a vulnerability somewhere. That's calling attention to my vulnerability. I need to address that myself and fix it so that it doesn't happen to me again. I can't walk around being this vulnerable and offended by... What, am I weak? You know what I mean?
If somebody intentionally tries to hurt you, or when you act, if you get your dander up and you act offended, you are now validating them. And to me, nothing strikes back better than showing that person that they don't matter.
Right?
I'm sorry, that indifference is so powerful, and until you start to understand what indifference truly, how powerful indifference is, and only the last couple of years have I kind of figured that out. Indifference can be very powerful.
Yes.
Personally powerful.
It is. You're correct about that.
It's hard to get there, though. We're not wired as creatures that way.
It is. It takes work for somebody like me. Maybe somebody like other people. Yeah.
Why?
It takes work to get to a place where you're indifferent. Well, it's kind of a place of enlightenment, right? When you think about it, if you're indifferent about something, you are enlightened a little bit.
Or you're
you
old.
Can take it or leave it. Yeah, you're wiser. It doesn't affect you as much. You can take it or leave it, or look at it objectively and stand back from it and not be so attached to it. Or attached to the feelings that it gives you. So, and I do think, it does take work to get there.
Are we going to come out of this pandemic with comedians gathering a lot of material from this time? Or do you think, because that's part of where the recovery of our country. It's an interesting conversation. Are we going to somewhat embrace the pandemic year? Because 2020 is going to be looked back upon, and probably a portion of 2021. Hopefully not, but 2020 for sure is going to be looked at as just one really lost year. Because I think we're going to be fine coming out of it, and in 2024 we're going to, hey, remember in 2020 when we were locked down? Boy, we were stupid.
Yeah.
or whatever it is. But are comedians going to come out of 2020 and use this year and gather material? Is it going to become part of the comedic lexicon, or is it going to be shunned and everybody's going to be looking for a new era?
I don't think anyone wants to hear about this. I don't think. No, it's going to be old. I mean, if you come out of this and you talk about it, people are like, shut the fuck up. That's over. We went through it. We dealt with it every day.
Maybe now, but
We
a couple
heard about
years
it.
from now?
A couple years from now, yeah, but I can't see people. I don't think people are going to be talking about it excessively. I think everyone is already over it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Is there material in there?
in the pandemic?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Yes, of course. I mean,
Okay.
and there are comedians who are touring. Some clubs are open. They are doing drive-in shows. I'm sure that they are talking about it. I haven't heard any yet because I haven't seen any shows. And comics are doing live shows over Zoom. So
Oh, let's talk about that. Because it's fucking bad. I'm
I
sorry.
haven't done one. I won't do one. It's not the same. I refuse.
Oh, man.
Not that anyone's asked me to, but I won't, and I just
How
and I
does
haven't
that-
watched it, so
How does that work?
I don't know.
So we did a little talking off air about the formulation of a video podcast and what we did here, what other ideas are out there. I won't do a Zoom show, and I know it's limiting because there's other opportunities that we could take this show in if I was more open to doing Zoom shows, but I won't do it because, number one, I need to do it for my realtor practice. I get enough of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But number two, the quality of the communication, the back and forth, the video quality, the sound quality, nothing beats the in-studio experience, and I'm spoiled. So, okay, I've made a rigid decision. We're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry. Zoom shows and the Zoom communication experience they got to fix that shit because it's not real good.
It's not good. I agree with you. I even just I've been doing a podcast with somebody over Zoom, and it's not. You're right. There's a big disconnect, and the glitches and the delays and the freezes. It's not ideal for sure. That's why I just don't want to do it.
And for you folks, because comedy in regards to stand-up is a live experience, it always traditionally has been, you're expecting to see, if it is on television, you're expecting to see high definition, you're expecting to hear wonderful audio. That's part of the experience. That deficiency of bad audio or warbly, muffled audio takes away from the joke. It takes away from the comedic experience on the receiving end. I can tell you it does.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, do you feel that as a comedian?
Absolutely. That's why I won't do them or watch them. I'm like, I can't. It's either quality or nothing for me. Now, I understand some people have been starved for entertainment, and some comedians are starved for stage time. And, you know, if you want to do it, absolutely do it. But for me, it's not for me. I wouldn't do it. The quality isn't good enough. I totally agree with you.
I've seen some amazing stuff, though. Like, I was looking at rock and roll stuff like 3 or 4 months ago, and Paul Stanley of Kiss was a guest on, I want to say it was Chris Isaac, the singer. He was doing a podcast, and if it isn't Chris, it's somebody else. They were doing a podcast, and I don't know what was going on, whether this podcaster would send out a microphone and maybe a special video camera to the guest in anticipation, and they set it up. I don't know what it is, but it was in 4K. It was studio quality, but it was a Zoom style thing. And I said to myself, if that was possible, if that, and it was being delivered streaming over the internet, I need to research that a little more, but still, it's still not the same.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that on the, like, when they're doing The View. I don't know if the show is The View, and they're all in their individual homes. And
is it pretty good quality? I don't watch that rubbish.
It is. But I don't either. My mom does, and it was on, and the screen was like split 4 ways.
Was it clear?
It was very clear.
That's what they've done.
Okay, yeah. That's not bad.
So it can be done. I guess bandwidth is the biggest issue. I'm not the biggest tech geek, but I think getting the streaming quality and speed, because this was really, I mean, because like Paul Stanley was in this room, in his ornate room in his house, and he's sitting there, and I want to say Was it Eric Roberts or Chris Isaac or just some celebrity, some B movie actor, I think is what it was. I think I could be wrong, but it was so well done, and I was like, wow, if we could get here quality wise, there might be more people open to it. But man, comedy's got to translate. It's a visceral thing, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I prefer it that way. And that is, it's the purest form. It's just live and on stage.
Yeah, and comedy comes in all forms too. Have you ever thought about being part of like a comedy? They call it comedy troupe, or
yeah, I was part of an improv and sketch group when I was 20, I think.
Okay,
I only did it for 6 months. I tried that out.
I've never seen one. So what does that really entail?
Improv? You've never watched improv? I Whose Line Is It Anyway on TV? That show with Drew Carey.
No, I didn't like Drew Carey.
Who doesn't like Drew Carey?
I'm sorry. What is
it about him? I need to know. What is it about him that you don't like?
I just don't find him funny. And
okay.
I think the show didn't appeal to me because the lady with the makeup was a big part of the
Drew Carey show?
It just was so
Mimi.
weird. It was so weird, and it just I don't know. I don't know. Late 90s, mid-late 90s.
It was like a little too cheesy, corny for you? Is that what it was?
I think so I was watching Seinfeld almost religiously.
Okay, well,
so I was trying to, the comparison between the two was like...
very different from Seinfeld.
Very different, yeah.
So yeah, but, improv is just what it sounds like. It's just, going up there. They have games and stuff, but I haven't seen too much improv either, but I did go to a couple of improv shows in Pittsburgh. One was at the Arcade Theater.
Okay.
The other one was... is there a theater in Pittsburgh called the Cabaret Theater or something like that? Some theater downtown.
Okay.
And I was shocked at how good it was.
Oh, really?
I hadn't seen improv in so long, and this was really good. It's like solid.
Okay.
Very funny. I could not believe it. And the audience was loving it, having a great time, and there was a big audience. Like improv is big in Pittsburgh.
All right.
And that's great. That's really great.
Huh.
And then I think sometimes they throw in some sketches and pre-written stuff, but it's not something I would go out and watch on my own. It's not something I'm that interested in.
Right.
But a friend invited me, and I went, and I was like blown away by how good it was.
Really?
Yeah, I was blown away. I was blown away how big of an audience they had, and how like excited this audience was to see them. Like, these were people who followed this improv troupe, and
so what does that involve if you're part of that improv troupe? Is it a choreographed
they rehearse
thing, or is it really that just everything's completely off the cuff?
Or everything is completely off the cuff when it comes to improv. They throw in sketches in the middle, I think, just in case like one of the improv segments don't go very well, to keep the show good.
Okay.
I can't remember what your question was.
Oh no, I'm trying to, because I've never seen an improv show. I saw a Blue Man Group. Was that supposed to be funny?
I don't think so. That's just those are just musicians, right? Up there.
I think I was laughing and I wasn't supposed to.
I think they should incorporate more paint in improv, though. I agree. That would be. I would probably go see more improv shows if they had paint and some drums. Throw some drums in there. Let's do this. Give us a location.
Oh my God almighty. Oh man. So you been to Vegas?
No.
Really?
Nope.
Interesting. Because there is another person floating around the planet that hasn't been to Vegas then.
Yeah. I want to.
Yeah. Would you want to do Vegas in regards to
you want to? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do Vegas.
Okay.
Also, I want to meet Carrot Top.
Oh, what's the fascination there? Yeah, that's interesting. He's done a lot of plastic surgery. He's a freaky looking dude.
He says that he hasn't, I think.
Oh my God almighty.
Yeah,
Come
and he
on.
says he's not on steroids.
Come on.
But,
okay.
No, I think he actually does have permanent makeup now. On it, he got like permanent makeup done. But and he's clearly probably had some work done. But I want to meet him because he seems really nice.
Yeah.
He has he's definitely a road dog. Like, he's been on the road a long time. He's been doing it a long time, and he's fucking like a comedy legend at this point.
Yeah.
Right. And
Can't
a lot of
deny
people
it.
give him shit and have given him shit for what he does using props and stuff. But I want to see a live show. I want to see Carrot Top do a live 45 minutes. People give me shit for just saying this, but I bet, you know, all that shit has timing and I bet he kills. And I'd love to meet him.
So I got a Carrot Top story for you.
Okay.
It's coming back from L.A. It was late 2008, 2009 trade shows out there, and he was on my flight. Sitting in coach and with me.
Wait, what year?
08.
Okay.
Yeah, sitting in coach. Big plane. It was two rows and three in the middle. Big plane.
That's hilarious
Wide body.
that he was in coach.
Yeah. And it was, I don't think it was a direct flight from L.A. to Pittsburgh. Might have been L.A. to New York. I can't remember what I was on. He's a couple rows in front of me, and the baby that was behind him kept grabbing his hair. And he had his hair like, I don't think he was really deformed looking like he is today with like muscular, but he had his hair all pulled up into like a rubber band up here.
Yeah.
It was a little bit hanging down. It was really strange. And the baby kept yanking on his hair, and he was it was commendable that he didn't like go full postal on the parent, right? He was very patient and kind and all that stuff. And he got up to use the lav, you know, and he walks past me. I said, "Hey," he goes, "You see the fucking murder I'm dealing with up there?" And I go, "I haven't seen the murder." And he patted me on his shoulder and went his way. But that's my Carrot Top story. But he was getting tormented on a flight.
He seems like such a nice guy. Everything I mean, I know other people seem like a nice guy or a nice person, and then you meet them and you're like, oh my God, you're a nightmare. Carrot Top seems like a genuinely nice person.
He was in coach in the middle.
That says something. Because 2008, gosh, I mean, he's been in Vegas for a while, right?
He's been a thing for a long time. But you know, I realize this about a lot of celebrities too. You see them flying coach, and I think it's because if they really need to get somewhere and there just isn't a first class ticket, they will hop on a plane and just go.
Right.
And when you look like Carrot Top, you can't really put a ball cap on and hide.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and maybe some of them want to be recognized
of
and
course,
talk to fans.
Of course.
A comedian.
All right, so what are the comedians that were either influenced you or who you dig?
I like Emo Phillips. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely
annoying as shit.
Yeah, I love Emo Phillips. I loved his writing.
Okay.
He was someone I discovered early on, and I'm like, oh my God, if I could write as good as this, I would be thrilled. And I met him and I told him that, and he was like, I'm not special, it's just hard work. That's what he told me.
Okay.
And he was so nice to me.
Okay.
I felt like I was meeting a hero when I met him. And I was young, and he's also just so funny in person too, and he's weird. I like that he's weird.
Okay.
I like weird people. I like Bill Burr a lot. He was a big guy for me. Now, sometimes he says some things about women that I'm like, man, come on. But I don't get mad at him for it. I'm just like, whatever, that's just part of it. But I love what he does. I'm a big Bill Hicks fan.
Okay.
Yeah. Something about Bill Hicks. Just don't give a fuck. Yeah. Yeah. Same with Bill Burr. He does it. But Bill Hicks just seems way more raw about it, too.
Right.
And he's darker, I think, Bill Hicks. I love Letterman. Letterman was huge for me. I watched him.
Was his delivery? What about Letterman that you enjoyed?
The sharpness, the quickness, the fact that the whole show is like an inside joke to the audience I love. So when you're watching him, you feel an intimacy when you're watching his show. It just is something. I had a rough childhood, so also watching Letterman brought me a lot of comfort. So he's on 5 nights a week. I'm just chilling with Letterman 5 nights a week, pretty much.
Right.
And I love the sense of humor, and I
Right.
love the people that he had on and the chemistry that he had with these people. It was hilarious and incredible and fascinating, and yeah. So Letterman, I love Letterman.
So I'm guessing you didn't dig Leno then, probably.
No, wasn't into Leno.
It's usually either or.
Leno compared to Letterman for me was just like he's like fluffy, you
All
know.
right. What's Conan and Brian?
I liked Conan until a couple years before he got the Tonight Show, and then got the Tonight Show. I thought he was just turned into a dick. Like I thought he used to be really charming and funny, and then it seemed to go to his head, and then he just turned into this jerk. And I'd be watching him interview people, and he'd be like saying things to them that came off as rude and mean. And I'm like, who the fuck does he think he is? And he just had this bad attitude. And then ever since then, I kind of like dropped Conan. But he had that show he did on Netflix recently. I think it's called like Conan Does the World or something like that. He goes to different countries.
I didn't see that.
That's pretty funny.
Okay.
Because there's no ego in that anymore. So I like it. But he's not like, one of my top. But I think he's funny. He's obviously very funny and skilled at what he does.
What about Anthony Jeselnik?
Anthony Jeselnik, I love one-liner comics. Love them. Anthony Jeselnik's delivery rubs me the wrong way. I don't like ego. And I get that that's part of his thing. Right. I totally get that. Right. I'm sure he's not like that. I met him. He kind of is a little bit of a dick. But that's probably also why I'm not that into him, because when I met him, he was like a dickish. But
the shit he says, though.
But some of his jokes, I'm like, one of his jokes is probably one of my favorite jokes ever that I've ever heard. But I will watch anybody and anything. But yeah, Anthony Jeselnik, it's like, I like specific.
He's an acquired
jokes.
Taste.
Well, I get it, but it's just not. It's just not something that fires me up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay.
But I appreciate it for sure. Respect.
Give me more comics that fire you up.
Fire me up. Well, Louis C.K. Louis C.K. used to fire me up. Now, this is...
They tried to cancel him, didn't they?
He is canceled. He is successfully canceled, I think.
I thought he's back.
He's coming back, but who knows? Well, yeah, they did cancel him, and he's coming back. But he lost almost everything. Everything, maybe. But but he's still fine. Millionaire, I'm sure. But the way that watching him evolve, that's one of the things I love about watching comedians, is watching their evolution as they go throughout the decades. People who just don't leave stand-up and they keep evolving their stand-up.
Right.
Louis C.K. was somebody, he was doing comedy for probably 20 years by the time I was 20. So the first time I saw him was his like an old half-hour Comedy Central special.
Okay.
And he stood out back then because I would watch Comedy Central all the time. I taped people and I would review them and dissect their acts.
Right.
He stood out to me immediately. I'm like, this guy's really good. And then he only got much, much better. But then when he became huge, he was doing a lot of jerk-off jokes. And to me, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you're going to come all this way and do all these shit and dick jokes? Are you kidding me?
Right.
But people loved it.
Yeah.
You go to a Louis C.K. show, you will see every type of person in that crowd. It's so diverse.
I can imagine.
But to me, I was just like, this is fucking overrated. And it was too many jerk-off jokes. Way too many. I'm like, dude, I don't want to sit here and listen to a jerk-off punchline every fucking 10 minutes. And people loved it, and they loved that he talked about jerking off. And then, turns out he jerks off in front of women, and people are like, oh my God, I can't even believe. Like, really? Really? Because you loved it.
You didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I fucking saw it coming. But, no, I think he's definitely one of the greatest stand-up comedians
What about Chappelle?
Ever. Chappelle's one of the greatest. Chappelle is...
Why? What makes him so amazing?
The comfort, I think.
What do you mean?
Chappelle's comfort. He's very laid back. He's a natural, is what it appears. He's just says like funny in his bones, you know. So when you're watching it, like he just walks out and you start smiling. You know what I mean? Just like, yeah. So funny. But his latest stuff, you know, to me, it's when somebody gets to a certain place in their success where they are huge, they're just not as funny anymore to me. I don't know if that's because they're more comfortable now because they have money or success, or they let the fame go to their head.
Right.
I think Chappelle lets the fame go to his head because everyone talks about how humble he is. He still lives in Yellow Springs, Ohio, whatever. He got away from show business, all that. But he does walk around like he knows that he is a legend. And that's, I don't know, there's something that turns me off about that when it comes to comedians. Now, if you're an athlete and you walk around like that, I dig it. I'm into it, you know, because there's something different about athleticism. Like, I appreciate that kind of attitude in athleticism.
About musicians, actors, actresses.
I don't like it. When it comes to creativity, I don't like it in a person.
Okay.
I mean, sure, have a level of confidence, but, you know. But so there's something about Chappelle in that it's like when you're buying your own hype, right? That's the part that where they lose me a little bit.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't, you know, obviously he is probably a legend, right? He's going to be a legend. He's one of the greatest comedians.
Right.
But I just, same thing kind of happened with Steve Martin. And maybe Steve Martin, maybe I'm not getting it and he's doing it sarcastically or ironically. But Steve Martin has that where he comes out and he's blatant about it too. Where he's like, well, I'm Steve Martin, you know. It's like, I just don't like that in people. I like when a person appears to always be like hustling or be underground or be reaching towards something.
So, Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, I haven't really seen him do anything in a while. I think he's like doing Broadway stuff now, right? So, I think he's either directing plays or writing plays or he's producing things. The last thing he did, Tambourine. Oh, okay. It was about his divorce. I liked that. And that's another thing where it's like a person who's being vulnerable, talking about their real life and expressing that in a funny way. So that was it. I liked that special.
Okay.
His last special that he did.
Hart.
On Netflix.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. I think Kevin Hart's hilarious, but it's kind of the same thing over and over for me. But absolutely incredibly entertaining, and from what everything I've read and heard, like one of the hardest working people ever.
Appears that way.
Yeah. But definitely, yeah, entertaining. So, yeah, I mean, these people are great at what they do, for sure. Yeah.
What's on the agenda for yourself here as you maneuver, hopefully, the downward, the end of the pandemic? Again, I'm an optimist. So.
Well, stuff like this. You know, I'm not on the road right now because most clubs aren't open. I'm thinking about moving. I want to move to a city where clubs are open. Like you said, Florida's open. There are a ton of comedy clubs in Florida. I'd like to go down there and start. Texas, yep. I think, I don't know how many clubs are in Austin, but there's a lot in
Everybody's
Florida.
moving to Austin.
Yeah, I won't go to Austin. There are a lot of clubs in Phoenix that are close together. So I'm thinking maybe Phoenix. I just want to move to.
Weather's great.
Yeah, comedy is my life. It's the majority of my life, and it has been ever since I've been 18, and even before I was getting on stage. It is my career. It's my passion, and it's to the point now where I have to move to wherever it's happening because I need to get on stage, and I want to feel productive again. You know, it's just I have to do it. So I'm open to. I don't have my own place right now because there's no point getting one. So, but I'll move, get my own place. You know, down in Florida or in Phoenix, wherever, and
Well, this is going to be a state, and it's pretty obvious that Pennsylvania is going to be one of the states that comes back at the end of everything, because we've got not just politicians, we have a whole mindset here in government that they want to control our every move.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be that way. We'll be one of the last states to fully integrate back into a normal society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think.
Our clubs aren't open yet. There are other clubs open at other places.
Absolutely right.
I don't like living like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people are okay with it. I'm not okay with it. So, in Florida, places are more open. You can eat indoors. I think you can eat indoors here too, I think.
Limited,
but
yeah.
I think their capacity is higher.
Mm-hmm. No question.
So I want to live, I want to get back to the life that I had and keep evolving.
You're probably going to have to go south.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad time to go south.
No, it's not a bad time to go
cold.
south at all. You got that right. But I appreciate it, my friend. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
Good. And this is a great format for you. I can see it.
Hope
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you're very comfortable behind the mic.
I hope I get better. Thank you so much.
But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
I even have to go to Florida to see you.
Yeah.
All right. We're out.